for people who want to snowboard a lot. They all figure out their own ways of making it happen. That's pretty much all I wanted to do with my time, so I thought the way to snowboard as much as possible was to become a professional snowboarder. I was a little bit of a late bloomer in realizing that I needed to work a little bit more to make the winters better.
In my eyes, it was pretty easy. It was like, okay, I want to snowboard. Okay, can I support my family doing this? I didn't really care about like sponsors. I mean, I just wanted gear that I'd have to buy, and I wanted to film video parts.
Sometimes the industry can be difficult to exist in, and some people kind of get caught up in it, and it turns into a negative thing.
I mean, that's awesome. If you want to be a pro snowboarder, make a living, and like buy a house, support a family on it, do it. But don't lose track of why you're doing it. Snowboarding is what it is because of the friends that you do it with. If you're in Powder Day by yourself, it's kind of fun. If you're at Powder Day with your homies, it's like out of this world.
Just getting ready to go on a hike because I need to get in shape for fire season.
I had wanted to fight fire since I was 18, but I was caught up snowboarding year-round, so I never took the steps that I needed to get into that type of work. For like 10 years, I think, I worked up at Mount Hood, and I think that lifestyle of snowboarding year-round is pretty hard to maintain. I work for the Baker River Hotshots. It's a U.S. Forest Service, a wildland fire crew, and we are based out of Concrete, Washington, which is on the south side of Mount Baker.
We gotta get that getting cooled off before you send some more at it.
I am a firefighter for the U.S. Forest Service on the Helena Hotshots, and I am a squad leader. We work for the United States taxpayers.
You're outside all the time, you're always tired, you're always a little too hot or a little too cold.
Hard, miserable, and pretty awesome.
My first fire, I remember feeling really overwhelmed and in over my head. It was like cognitive overload with the fire and the weather and like helicopters and airplanes overhead and the people around me just kind of not seeming to be affected or overwhelmed by any of it.
I think it's really important that kind of when you're in those environments that you need to be 100% focused on what you're doing, and kind of fire into snowboarding have kind of naturally taught me those things through the years. Just by the way the mentality you approach fire and you approach snowboarding or being in the mountains, whether the mountain's on fire or it's buried in snow.
Boom, pillow stack. Boom, pillow stack. Mine.
We're in similar landscapes, but we're just dealing with, the opposite seasons.
They share the same things. You're in the mountains doing dangerous things with people.
And so it's cool to be able to go out and work in the summer and learn how people make decisions when it involves risks, and to try and apply that in the wintertime. Toward the end of the winter, I start to really look forward to getting back with the crew and seeing my friends there. And then on the flip side of that, as the fire season progresses, I start to really look forward to snowboarding because I've been able to take a step back and really appreciate it. Tahoe is beautiful. There's a lot of history here, and there's a lot of incredible terrain. There's a lot of options. But growing up here, it's very easy to take that for granted. With the drought and the poor winters that Tahoe's experienced, it's definitely thinned out the scene. That in turn has made it that much more special because the people that are here really want to be here. They know what Tahoe has to offer, and they're dedicated to it. They all have the same sort of love for snowboarding that I do.
It is just something else when you see like yourself in this 20-inch body and he's looking up at you with your eyes and he's just smiling at you and says, Dad, Dad. He's exactly like Brooke and I. He is just so go, 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 and he's just like us. We're just total spazzes, and we're trying to do something or go outside, be outdoors. It's challenging for sure. You have to take a step back and refocus on what you're doing and what's important. So my wife, Brooke, she is a journalist. Met her in Helena, Montana, where I grew up. I was fighting fire one summer. We pushed our relationship pretty hard, with this lifestyle that's just damaging on your loved ones. Being gone all summer and then gone all winter. But fortunately, she's an angel and kept me around. I made a trip back to Montana the last winter I was living in Truckee and met up with some of my buddies, Shane and Todd, and we went out to these zones that I just could not believe were so close to where I grew up riding, and I'd never even been there before. And it was some of the best terrain and some of the best powder that I had ridden all year. And I was like, God, this was 100 miles from where I grew up for 20 years. The way me and my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, lives kind of worked out, we were able to make the move and come back to Montana, and ever since then it's just been hunting new terrain and riding it, kind of going wherever it sounds fun or intriguing. I'm here in Montana, and that's where I like to be.
When the storm came in, it bonded really well to the old snow surface.
Data is showing positive things. We're gonna go for it.
It's like a penis, but smaller.
In my mind, I was always going to go to school before I pursued anything with snowboarding. Where I've ended up in snowboarding is kind of just a byproduct of me enjoying it so much. It's something that I feel pretty fortunate just to have been able to get into because a lot of people are prohibited from it, like by money or access to the mountains. I was really fortunate that my mom was able to set me up with like a snowboard and a pass, and she was raising, 3 kids on her own, and while I was getting into snowboard, she was going to school full-time at Western trying to get her degree. It was pretty amazing that, she was able to support whatever we wanted to do and work as hard as she could to make that happen. And that gave me a pretty good perspective on, choosing your passions wisely and making sure that things were really important to myself before I jumped into them. Until I was maybe like 17 or 18, I don't think I had ever snowboarded at a resort other than Baker. So I was kind of oblivious to the whole world outside of it. My first sponsor, I'd say, was Lucas DeBari. He sponsored a lot of our friends at Mount Baker.
He asked me to come down and watch the parade, to march down the street like the dudes.
I think Lucas has seen it from, the professional side of snowboarding his whole life. And at one point he was like, you've got it pretty good. You've got the support of companies. You are kind of on your own program. You don't have as much responsibility in the snowboard world as some people have, which can be stressful and can kind of take away from the actual act of snowboarding. Kind of where I was at that point where I could jump in full, jump into the deep end and be like, okay, I want to do this. I think he gave me some really good advice. I was on track, to get a good education, and he really was like, you should just keep doing that because that's really important, and snowboarding will always be there no matter where you are in it. Just do what will make you happiest.
Traded a smoke for a food stamp dollar. Ridiculous marching band started playing. Got me singing along with some half-hearted victory song. Won't you follow me down to the Rose Parade? Won't you follow me down to the Rose Parade? Won't you follow me down to the Rose Parade?
All I really knew about myself, on the education side of things, was that I really enjoyed math and science. And, on my personal side of things, I knew I loved the outdoors. And that kind of led me towards civil engineering. I guess I would call this company a hydrologic surveying company. That's mostly like our specialty. We do a lot of survey work in and around rivers and streams. And basically I've had like a 50-50 balance of time working out in the field and then developing 3D ground surface models in the office. King County, for example, is doing a lot of flood remediation and kind of restoration of a lot of different rivers that either had levees or dikes that have inhibited salmon from going up and spawning and everything. So they're breaking out all these levees and then opening up the floodplain. So we do a lot of that mapping work. That informs the hydraulic designers, and then they can actually do design work based off of our base maps. And so they can get rid of the levees, and that spreads the river out and slows it down. It just creates a lot more natural habitat that the fish are able to return to and spawn and be happy. They've been really flexible with me, allowing me to go off on my adventures if I get my work done in time. I enjoy work and it's a necessary part of life, but it's not everything. I'd much rather have a bunch of time than money. We're tucked up in the northeast Cascades in a little old-timey western town. Yeah, there's a big layer of freezing rain on everything.
Let it be.
you want to be out all the time, and you know, my happy place is in the mountains, but at the same time I enjoy work and value being productive and contributing to the team at work. It's a kind of a tightrope walk sometimes, but for the most part it works out really well.
Snowboarding is more of like a personal thing for me, you know. I'm out there with my friends, but it's more of my personal expression. When I'm working, I'm with a group of people and we're out there for each other, trying to accomplish the same goal.
I've had an amazing time snowboarding, and I shouldn't have any regrets, and I have zero.
Joe dug us a ditch with the cat, and we shaped out all this stuff. Now we're just fixing it up a bit, and we're gonna have another session.
Ich hatte ein Wort, ein langes, selbstgezimmertes wie eine Rinne. Mit Rädern schmal, wie ein Einbaum oder etwas, das Zement leiten soll. Ein Model zwar, windschnittig und windschief, war aber meins. Ich hatte ein Wort, ein rundes, rund wie eine Orange. Es hat mitunter mitternachts den ganzen Innenraum mir erhellt. War nach der Natur bewachsen, einem Foto des Mondes neben dem Bett. Irgendwer hat die Bedeutung mir verdeckt. In einem Winkel ganz weit weg, auch noch versteckt. Ich hab keinen Beweis.
Pretty good start to the day. Yeah, I feel better now. I feel safe.
You get cheaper car insurance for that, I think. You should report that.
Yeah, good call, dude. Bummed on traffic, dude.
You know what they say, any fool with quick hands can grab a tiger by the balls, but it takes a hero to keep on squeezing. We were that hero. We were.
Are you zooming in on my nuts right now?
Es wuchs eines Tages mit kleinen Köpfen beiderseits aus meiner Haut.
Went over to the grocery store last night. There's a full range of taxidermized animals ranging from lions and warthogs and buffalo and deer. Apparently the owner, Hank, is a hunting enthusiast.
Es hielt sich nicht länger in seinem Winkel versteckt.
Wait, what's dog say? Oh, row, that's right. Yeah, oh, that's a Pulaski. If you use this thing, you won't have to use that thing. You can be a hotshot if you want, but only through college. Then after that, you gotta find a better job.
Ich bin die fernsten Winkel abgereist, auf der Suche nach der